Now we'll move to the next speaker, our eminent professor, Maria Cardoso from Portugal, the head of breast surgery, of the Department of Breast Surgery in Lisbon, Portugal. She will present to us the optimal surgical management after neoadjuvant systemic therapy.
Thank you. Okay, so for the second part of my talk, there are lots of not solved issues related to primary systemic therapy. For instance, you can see at the bottom the enormous variety of names you can give to primary systemic therapy. You have 11 here. And if you go for a search in Medline, you find PST, NC, NAC, whatever. Obviously, as Olivia said, we have an understanding what is the best definition of pathological complete response. But even that, in several meta-analyses, we have not the same definition when we look at former trials. Regarding clinical and monitoring of radiological response, even there we don't have a standard how to evaluate response. So there are lots of unsolved issues related to this problem. We know that now we are focusing on enabled more limited surgery on the breast and in the axilla. We have talked a lot about the advantage of doing primary systemic therapy, and Professor Vialli talked about the opportunity to access new surrogate biological endpoints, and we have lots of new exciting trials considering this. For instance, like the I-SPY 2 trial that is going on and probably will give us some responses. What we want now is the conversion of mastectomy to candidates of breast-conserving surgery and, as Olivia said, the improvement of cosmesis by lowering down the amount of resection in the breasts. In the axilla, we want to reduce the extent of axillary surgery by downstaging involved axillary nodes. In light blue, you will see two objectives that I think are not very far away, but for the moment they will stay in light blue. That is the reduction in the extent of local regional radiotherapy by downstaging primary tumor axillary nodes, and the potential for eliminating the surgeon when there is a pathological complete response. Don't forget that this set of patients are patients that want very much to try conservative treatment. So they are dealing with this treatment with a very great hope of achieving response. So we should not recommend this treatment for patients we are not going to have probability of likelihood of a great response. This slide Olivia showed it is the probability of patients to have a response or not, and this is something we should consider primary to starting treatment. What we expect is an enormous growing amount of response with newer drugs. And this is very important because we know that we're going to increase the amount of conservative treatment. Again, don't forget, we stress this always, but we always visit and we always know about patients that were not included on MDT teams, on MDM decisions, and we know that this sometimes is not good for the patient. It's never good, but it can impact on the final treatment. And we all are important in this setting. Olivia talked about the surgeon, and I'm talking about the idea that if we know how the patient is before starting treatment, we can decide upon the impacts of radiation after treatment. We can know how the imaging is progressing during treatment. So there is no boss in this decision. All the team members are important in deciding. So we have to initially work up local regional disease. We have to monitor response to treatment. We have to decide the timing of sentinel node surgery, if we can go on breast-conserving surgery after treatment. The radiation therapy is in light blue, not because it's not needed, but because it's going to be talked after by Professor Orecchia. And the idea that if we go on mastectomy, we can have reconstructive surgery. This is a summary of one of the possible pre, during, and post-treatment workup. So a clinical examination is always fundamental. It's different to have a 3 centimeters tumor size on a very thin with small breast patient, with a 1-3 centimeter size in a very large breast patient. So mammogram, ultrasound, and MRI, and I put a question mark there. Core biopsy of the breast and axilla, or FNA of the axilla. The marking of the breast, either with clipping or tattooing, it's not important unless it's not done. That's important. Sentinel node before or after. The during treatment workup usually is a clinical examination. You can add some imaging if you feel that the treatment is not working and the patient is stable, and you change treatment and you don't see results. And sometimes patients get very anxious with that, and you can repeat exams to tranquilize the patient. And the preoperative workup just before surgery with clinical examination, mammogram, ultrasound, and or MRI, and if necessary, when we are not certain of areas of response in MRI, the idea of repeating sometimes a core biopsy in certain zones can be important. And again, if sentinel node before or after. This has been very recently published and is a meta-analysis of comparative studies comparing MRI with clinical exam, ultrasound, and mammography in the neoadjuvant setting. And as you can see, there is not so much difference. And we know that MRI, even if we know that there are much more MRI than we needed, we know that MRI is established, and sometimes we get patients already with MRI. We are not deciding if they are going to have MRI. More important than having MRI, and these studies don't contemplate that, is the expertise of the technicians that read the MRI, that can do biopsy guided with MRI. So this is very important. But as you can see in this meta-analysis, you have only a difference when comparing MRI with mammography. In the right column, you can see the accuracy, the area under the ROC curve, the accuracy of the exam, and you see that difference is only perceptible in mammography in comparison with MRI. So even if we feel more at ease doing MRI, that's true that until now, there's not a great difference in evaluating response. So tattooing again the lesion, and you can see the marking on the skin, on the patient on the left before treatment, and on the right after a latissimus dorsi mini flap. So you can see the marking after. So probably the most important part of this talk is the axillary objectives of this neoadjuvant treatment. And the idea is to decrease the extent of axillary surgery, and not forget that axillary surgery still has, when you do a complete axillary dissection, an impact on the quality of life that's very important. This concept is currently applicable to operable breast cancer with N0N1 disease, and most available data on this sentinel node biopsy were obtained by comparison with patients with operable breast cancer. So what we do usually is we do an ultrasound after the clinical exam. The truth is no clinical imaging has proved now to be largely superior to the other in evaluating the axilla. Doing a FNA of suspicious indeterminate nodes can help you to decide what to do next. Sentinel node biopsy before neoadjuvant chemotherapy is controversial. Why? Because all this is done in the setting of early breast cancer to diminish the amount of surgery done. So if you are going to have a response to chemotherapy, and if we do sentinel node before, and we have a positive node, is sure that we are going to have an axillary dissection after. So these patients are lost to reducing with preoperative chemotherapy. So, sorry about my bias, but I don't believe in a sentinel node before neoadjuvant chemotherapy. So, helpful, obviously, if the sentinel node is negative. Patients with large operable breast cancer have a higher likelihood of positive nodes, does not take advantage of the reduction, the conversion to positive, from positive to negative nodes, and obviously it has another impact. It requires 2 surgical procedures. People that are in the audience and are surgeons know that this is not very agreeable for patients, ongoing 2 surgeries. It's something that it's not very well accepted, and I assure you, because doing sentinel node with local anesthesia is not easy. So we have several trials that prove that this is possible and feasible. First of all, the B27 trial that shows that the identification rate and false negative rate in patients after neoadjuvant chemotherapy is similar to before, in patients doing sentinel node before any treatment. And this is equal in clinically node negative and positive patients. The Ghanaian-French prospective multicenter study showed a difference in this setting. While the false negative rate was identical, the identification rate was really lower in N1 positive patient. But again, the MD Anderson, and don't forget that the MD Anderson is probably one of the institutions with more experience in neoadjuvant trials, showed that it's perfectly safe to do this. And it showed that even if there is a difference in identification rate, the false negative rate is similar. There's also a meta-analysis of patients doing sentinel node biopsy after neoadjuvant chemotherapy, and the conclusion is that sentinel node is a reliable tool for planning treatment after neoadjuvant chemotherapy. More recently, and these are slides show the San Antonio from the German breast group, there is the design of the Sentina trial. What they did, and they didn't do FNA of suspicious nodes, they only did ultrasound. So FNA was not mandatory. Some patients had and some patients don't. So what they did was, if the patient was N0 before treatment, the patient had sentinel node and then no axillary treatment. This is the first arm. The second arm, if it was positive before treatment, the patient underwent again sentinel node after treatment. The third arm was the arm of sentinel node after treatment in N0 patients after neoadjuvant treatment, and then the patients with N1 after adjuvant treatment went on axillary dissection. This is the distribution of patients, is quite well distributed, and what you have is something that is very important. That is, it's not acceptable to do again sentinel node before and after treatment. The false negative rate rises a lot. Even if the detection of the sentinel node after neoadjuvant treatment is a little bit higher than the other group, the difference between sentinel node biopsy is absolutely important. The identification rate also is very different in the 2 arms, and the conclusions of the authors is the detection rate is excellent for patients receiving sentinel node before systemic treatment. To repeat is not acceptable, and you have a lower identification rate when you do sentinel node after treatment. The final conclusion is doing sentinel node after the treatment is less favorable. We are eagerly waiting for the results of the Z71 trial that stopped accrual at 550 patients to see these results. But remark the group of patients included. It's a very broad spectrum of patients. So summarizing, For patients with operable breast cancer who are candidates for neoadjuvant chemotherapy, ultrasound and FNA of suspicious lymph nodes should be considered as part of the staging. SNA before NAC does not offer any particular advantage, so you don't profit of the benefit of neoadjuvant chemotherapy. Sentinel node after NAC is feasible and accurate, with similar performance sentinel node biopsy before NAC. By performing NAC, you save axillary dissection to up to 40%. Caution is, however, required for patients with N1 disease. You must include them in clinical trials. Regarding the breast, I'm not spending too much time on this because we talk about this. What we intend is conversion of mastectomy to breast conservation and improvement of cosmesis. We have several trials showing that is possible, but is also very evident that if certain factors of risk are present, the ipsilateral breast recurrence is much higher than when they are not present. And you can see in the B18 trial that when you choose, by comparison, candidates that should have mastectomy before preoperative chemotherapy, you see that the local recurrence rate gets much higher. The MD Anderson trial, we talked about it. This is the prognostic index and the factors they chose that are factors that will have impact on the amount of local recurrence. So, summarizing breast, surgery is necessary for every patient, so not dispensing surgeons until now, ideally by a specialist breast surgeon. Resection should be planned according to residual disease, not the amount of initial disease. Margins are identical to primary surgery. We should use specimen radiography when microcalcifications are present and localized. Marking tumor location with clips or tattooing with clips for radiotherapy. Breast reconstruction, same rules as primary surgery. So contraindications to breast conservation surgery, persistent positive margins, multicentric lesions. Obviously, we can consider multifocal extensive area if the breast is large and we are going to apply oncoplastic techniques. Be aware of extensive DCIS. If a patient has planned a prophylactic mastectomy, it doesn't make any sense to go on breast conservation on that side, and the presence of lymphovascular invasion. This is the marking of the clips for radiotherapy, and don't forget that you must put the clips on the pec muscle, otherwise with the techniques of oncoplastic they will move around and confuse the planning of radiotherapy. Complement breast conservation surgery when large resections are needed with oncoplastic techniques. We know that it's probably safe, but we don't have prospective trials to compare. Improving quality of life when mastectomy is needed by immediate breast reconstruction. Regarding reconstruction, we know that it's safe in T2, T3 disease. Chemotherapy pre or post doesn't affect outcomes in breast reconstruction. Radiotherapy post-reconstruction can affect cosmetic results, especially if using implants. It's more difficult to plan radiotherapy after reconstruction, but it depends on the expertise of the service and the equipment of radiation oncology. Autologous reconstruction, better with radiotherapy than implants, and muscle is better than fat, so don't forget that. Consider doing radiotherapy before reconstruction is an option that is actually followed by, for instance, German groups. Include reconstructive surgeon, if not in MDM, in discussions. So as you can see, you can take a large amount of breast using oncoplastic techniques. Obviously, it depends on the size of the breast. And if the breast is small, you have to displace muscle to fill in the gap. If the breast is large, you can reduce it. So this is the size of a resection specimen with radiography when you do a breast reduction. To summarize, surgery after neoadjuvant chemotherapy must use the same principles of primary surgery. Oncoplastic techniques help to achieve better results when larger resections are needed, planning of surgery with imaging results, and discussion again in MDT if mastectomy indicated immediate breast reconstruction, counting always on radiotherapy. I would like to thank my oncoplastic team, and I invite you all to be in Lisbon next November on the second conference of advanced breast cancer. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Maria Cardozo. And now the floor is open for discussion. If there is any questions from the audience, welcome.